I was like, you got to be kidding me. This person is selling a turmeric clay mask and they're making $140,000 a month and there's 16 of them. And if I look at this neck massager, they're making $240,000 a month and there's 20 of them. And it just goes on and on and on. And I'm like, this is what I can do. And
Hello and welcome back to another episode of 0 to 1 Million Stories, where we talk with founders and how they grew about their business from 0 to $1 million in revenue and beyond. Today, my guest is Sydney Bencriscutto, and his business is Double Oaks Essentials. Welcome, Sydney, and why don't you tell us a little bit about what the business is and how you got started?
okay, so Double Oak Essentials is basically a gifts for men website. We sell things like cocktail smokers, whiskey glass sets, as well as our new minimalist wallets. Basically anything giftable. All of our packaging is giftable and unique products. Basically, is what we're expanding to.
Cool. So I'd love to hear more about the backstory and why you decided this business.
So, since I was 12 years old, I was a music artist slash entrepreneur. I spent the ages of 12 all the way to 30 pursuing a music industry. And I created my own record label. Uh, I would make my own album covers. I would produce the entire albums. Um, I would come out with at least an album a year for about
Wow.
17 years. I mean, I almost want to lie about the amount of time I pursued it because it's kind of like, come on, man, how long does it take? But at the age of 30, I decided, okay, I have a wife and child now. It's time to um, focus on them and, make an easier life for them. My wife wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and with the job I had, even though it was pretty well paying and it wasn't that bad. I was an electrician. It just wasn't enough, and I kept getting like raises and whatnot, and I'm just like, this isn't enough. I need more. Like I want to live comfortably. I don't want to have this constant stress of money and hourly wages dictating my life. Like it seemed like no matter like the amount I would have to work to have some sort of relief between a few weeks was just like, I can't keep up with this. And my commute was 2 hours a day. I would drive an hour there, an hour back, and I found myself missing time with my family. I mean, my daughter was 2, 3 years old at the time, and I would get home at probably 6 o'clock, and she goes to bed at 7:30 or 7, and I'm just like, this is just not. You know, Ever since I was 12, music was my out of the rat race. Um, and once I decided that that was no longer going to work, I had to find something to separate myself from the rat race and liberate myself because it felt like some form of financial slavery. Like if you don't go to work, you don't eat, and I just couldn't take that pressure anymore. So it was during the pandemic. I just decided, okay, this is going to be my last album. I released my album. I didn't put much effort into advertising it because I didn't have. Everyone was on lockdown. I didn't have the freedom to just go and spend money on marketing or something like that. So I said, you know what, if this doesn't work, which I don't think it will, I'm onto something new. Um, so I started looking for things to do. I rode out the pandemic. I got into stock trading for a little bit. Um, and it's an important part of the story because I got into options trading. That whole Robinhood thing, I was surely in that.
Were you buying GameStop?
No, I did not buy GameStop, but I would buy
AMC?
options. I would buy option calls, and my introduction into stocks was Tesla stock. I once I saw the Cybertruck, I started investing in Tesla stock, and before I knew it, my $1,300 investment turned into 15,000. And then I learned about options trading. I don't know what that was in the stock market, but I got into it, and one of my first options plays, I made like $10,000 overnight. I woke up and I stopped my wife from her exercise, and I go, look at this. I just made $10,000. I told you this would work. It was just some silly small cap company, and I saw a YouTube video on it, and I bought a bunch of call options the night before. I think $450 turned into $10,000 overnight. But this led to like this toxic path of options trading. But the thing was at that time, you couldn't lose. It was just like you just had to watch some random YouTuber buy options, and all of a sudden it worked. And like, I would make $10,000 here, $10,000 there. Next thing you know, I have $88,000 in my account, in my Robinhood account, and I'm just like looking at this, like I can't believe this. I feel like my reality, like this isn't real. Like I'm literally losing grip of reality. Like my whole life, I've had to work very hard to make $300 a day, and now I'm making $10,000 a night. So that's an important part of the story, because it kind of broke my frame. It was like, wait a minute, like real money is not made by like working harder and sweating harder like that. Like I was always in manual labor. I started as a roofer, then an electrician, and everything was always hard. I mean, I would get cut and bleed and throw my back out and all of these crazy things, and like that was what I had to do to make more money. But then I got into stock trading. I'm like, no, that's not right at all. I just made $50,000 in 30 days. But then in the year of I believe it was 2022, that went out the window. Every small cap stock, all those speculated stocks started sinking, and they were sinking very slow. I mean, I remember everyone was talking about how like the stock market was still stable, and I'm like, I am lost everything. I don't know what you guys are talking about. But the small caps were going down gradually for like an entire year, and I was just kind of like holding on to it. But I had this obsessive focus on it. I would try to learn everything about these stocks and say like, oh, if this passes, then this stock is going to go to this and all that kind of stuff. But then that drained for like another year. So mind you, I quit at 30, 31. I got into stocks. It was going good for a little bit, and I realized that's not a good way to make a sustainable way to make money. So I eventually quit that. I had about $12,000 left. I took it out, and I found new ways to make money online, legit ways to make money online, legit, and that was print-on-demand T-shirts. I found that these people were making six figures a year selling print-on-demand T-shirts. So you don't have to buy any inventory. You just design the stuff, make a mock-up, throw it on Etsy, on Amazon, on Redbubble, and hopefully people buy your stuff and you make money. I tried that. I put my full effort into it, into learning about it, and trying my best for about, I would say, 90 days or something of the sort. And I didn't sell a single T-shirt. So wow. I'm like, okay. And it wasn't until my friend Nate, he was doing his own entrepreneurial journey, renting cars on Turo, and he would invest in he would buy cars and he would rent them out. And I had a phone conversation with him, and he goes, yeah, I just quit my job. He goes, I'm full-time entrepreneur now. And I was just like, as happy as I was for him, I felt almost like I felt my stomach drop. Like, man, I wasted so much time on this silly Robinhood options trading thing, and I could have spent that same amount of time that he did, and I would have been able to leave my job. So that night, I'm like, okay, I got to make this t-shirt thing work. I know that the difference between me and my goal is knowledge. So I have to go find it. It's all on the internet. Let me go find it. So I sat down, I put my laptop down, and I'm like, okay, how do I sell these t-shirts on Amazon? Amazon is the best opportunity to make money. So I found the closest thing I found on Amazon, and I started watching it, and they started talking about something else. They started talking about private label products. And I was like, okay, I don't care if I waste my time. I'm going to learn this. I don't know if it's going to be a skill that's relevant to what I want to do, but I'm just going to learn. I'm going to learn everything I can to get myself out of this position, because I felt like a slave to the system, and it really affected me. I felt trapped. I spent so much time on this path to freedom, and I realized that that's never going to work. I'm too old now, and I've tried everything. It's not going to work. So let me learn whatever I need to learn to get me where I don't know where I'm going, but I have to learn. So I watched this video tutorial, and it was like 5.5 hours long. I stayed up until 1:30 a.m. and I
What?
took
First of all, like, what kind of video like on YouTube is like even that long? That's
yeah
I've
I,
never seen
that's
it that long.
it was an FBA tutorial on
Yeah.
Amazon, fulfillment by Amazon tutorial by a YouTuber named Dan Voss. And to this day, I make sure to mention his name because he is the person who really uh, had me find this. He took the time out to tell people about this, and I paid attention. It's basically a tutorial that'll show you the exact steps on how to create your own product and bring it to Amazon and sell, and how much money you can make doing it. And his number was how I went from this to that in 3 months, and I made $30,000 a month. Mind you, that's revenue, that's not profit. But that number, for some reason, I really gravitated towards that number because I was in stocks and I've made that type of money before, so I know that's real. And it's hard going from making that amount of money to anything else. If you make $50,000 in a single month, I never got to spend that money. It just sat in my Robinhood account. But seeing that number, it's hard to go back to work and make $1,000 a week, and you'll never get that chance at that peak again. So that number, I was like, that's what I want. I would love to make that kind of money. And I never even a lot of times when you think of a rich person or someone who is rich, you don't think about what the numbers are. And the numbers sound a lot like $30,000 a month. I mean, for someone like me at that time before the stocks, $10,000 a month would be like, I couldn't even fathom that type of money. But there are people making $100,000 a day. There are people making $1 million a day. And what this did is it shows you every step of how to do this and how to product research. And there's a certain software that you can download called Jungle Scout or Helium 10, and it shows you the numbers behind the Amazon products that you buy every single day. And
Okay.
that alone broke my mind. I was like, you got to be kidding me. This person is selling a turmeric clay mask and they're making $140,000 a month, and there's 16 of them. And if I look at this neck massager, they're making $240,000 a month, and there's 20 of them. And it just goes on and on and on. And I'm like, this is what I can do. And the part that really struck the most about it was that I could be creative. There's a lot of products on there with very low effort in branding and how they present their product. You can't pronounce any of the names. They don't have vowels. So these are the people that you're competing against. And I was all for that because my whole life I was competing with Drake and
Yeah.
like
Seriously.
the biggest rappers in the world, trying to get some attention and trying to get people to listen to me over them. So when it came to this, I was like, oh, I can make a way better looking product than these people, and I can brand way better. I have all these tools. I know how to make graphic art. I know how to make all these things that I've learned in the 20 years prior to this. So it really, I tell you, anyone at that time, I was something else. I was like, I'm telling you, this is what I've been looking for my entire life. I've been like, it's like trying to traverse across a desert for your whole life, and now you see the oasis. That's the only thing I could. It was 20 something years of people saying you're not good enough, you're not enough. Like, no, we don't even want to listen to you. And then I get into a field where it is a meritocracy. It is about who brings the best product and who brands the best, and it is a fair game. So after that video, I mean, I took like 6 pages of notes. I learned everything I could about it, and that set off a trail of obsession. I wanted to learn every single thing about it. I mean, at this point in time, that my job was kind of driving me nuts. I couldn't really. I had to get out, and this was my. I identified the way out, and nothing could stop me from getting there. I mean, you physically, mentally, nothing. I consumed as many books on business that was relatable to what I was doing as I possibly could. I probably listened to 30 something audiobooks on my way to work and on my way back to work and during work. I would have my AirPods in and I would be listening to um, Millionaire Fastlane and
Oh yeah,
what are the other popular ones? I know I've read them. Just
Think and Grow
everything about it.
Rich.
Yes, and the thing about, I wasn't like learning something new when I listened to them. It was almost like just self confirming what I believed, and it made me feel better because I was in a position where I'm like, I was so anxious because once you start e-commerce, it's not a get rich quick scheme. I mean, it's pretty fast, pretty quick if you do it right and if you follow the the rules and you do everything properly. But you do have to wait. Like, you can't just start a product tomorrow and it's going to show up at Amazon the next day. It's, even once you find a design and you find the product that you want to do, it's going to take them 45 days or so to make the product, and then it's going to take them another 35 days to send the product out. And the pre-design stage, that should take you up to 30 days. You shouldn't be done
I
with it
see.
right away. um, Excuse me.
So I
um,
have a question here. How, like, of all the products you could have sold, right? Why did you gravitate towards the whiskey smokers?
so it fit into Dan Voss's criteria.
Okay.
So for beginners, in if you want to sell on Amazon, and for any of the viewers, don't just focus on Amazon. Don't just focus on, this is not an Amazon business. This is a business, period. And
Mhm.
what you're trying to do is to appeal to everybody. You don't want to be on just one platform because that leaves you very vulnerable. Amazon could shut you down like that and you don't sell anywhere else. You want to be able to sell on your own website, on Shopify. You want to possibly sell on Etsy. But you want to be able to sell your own product on your own website the most, because that's you control that. Um, so through the criteria that he made, and that's why it was so valuable at that time. It's a little less relevant now. So if you're looking at it now, I would look at his updated videos. But you have to find a product that you identify with and understand. Um, Me personally, I would create a product that is going to be your hero product, that's going to start your business, um, and that you can expand from. So you don't want to just sell some weird shower caddy, and you're in this super saturated market and you have no way of differentiating yourself. Um, that's probably the trickiest part of it, but that should be the trickiest part of it. You want to take your time on this process. Um, so whiskey smokers were, they fit the criteria, as in They made a lot of money every month, and the top three competitors didn't have any more than 1,000 reviews, which means that people searching for this product on Amazon are willing to buy a
I see.
product with less reviews. So you
Got
have
it.
a chance at 0 reviews. You're not going to come out just rocket ships off the bat, but you have a chance to get started, and people will give you a chance if you differentiate enough, and you're not, you know, even if you don't differentiate yourself, you still have some sales, but as far as success and sustainability, you have to separate yourself from the pack. And that's just what I did. So I tried to create a new brand aesthetic that I wasn't seeing everywhere else. Everywhere else, it just looked like really cheap uh, boxes and names you couldn't pronounce. Um, and I was able to get a decent start. Um, yeah, so that was basically it, and we've improved the product uh, literally like 12 times over. Every time we order a new batch of inventory, we try to make improvements. Um, but yeah, that's basically how we got our hero product for Double Oak.
Are there like are there just like I guess suppliers for this product for every product, or did you have to go find it yourself?
No, so Alibaba.com. I
Oh,
would
okay.
the reason it's so popular to have products made in China is because they are very friendly to small American businesses. Um, Finding American suppliers is just very difficult. I would love to do it, but there's no website that really helps you find it easily. They basically there's a few of them where you just kind of search, and then a list of manufacturers come up, and they don't tell you if they make your product or not. They're just kind of like, we're woodworking manufacturers or something like that. They have zero pictures of anything that they've ever made, and you have to like send them an email. I know that for aspiring entrepreneurs, the barrier of entry can only be so high. So, um, but yeah, you can have very high quality products on Alibaba. You just have to vet your suppliers well. You have to get samples, and quality can be. I have some products that are just fantastic quality. I, I love them. They're perfect, and they get a bad rap because a lot of people don't um, improve on the product or set standards for their supplier. Um, it's basically as good as you want it to be, and you quality check things properly. Um, but yeah, that's all you. And even just going there and browsing through the products will give you some sort of inspiration. I wouldn't just pick a product that way, but it just kind of opens your mind. It's like, well, there's just look at all these business opportunities. These are, every one of these is a business
Yeah.
opportunity. I could make something like this. But yeah, that's where I would start. There's other places, but once you become more successful, okay, once you become more successful, you have more resources, and then you can eventually um, go to American manufacturers if you so choose.
So, oh, sorry, what was it? Okay. How much of the sales now come from your own website versus the other marketplaces like Amazon, maybe Etsy? And how did you transition from just selling on Amazon to selling on your through your website?
So the first year that I launched, I focused only on Amazon, and it was going pretty well, but the cost of advertising really made it hard. Um, I made it work for the time being. I did have a lot of business credit built up because of the 20 years. I had my LLC since 2014, so I had business credit cards that I was just using to get the business launched. So the first year was pretty much all Amazon, and then in the last like 4 months or so, I went to Etsy, and Etsy, the product kind of exploded on Etsy. and that became my most profitable marketplace. It's really hard to recommend Etsy because it's not like a marketplace that you can just climb the rankings at your free will. It's kind of like, because the advertising isn't, you get like a budget a day, $5 a day. It may or may not spend it. So it's kind of hard to scale on Etsy. I wouldn't recommend that to scale, but it is a good, if you have a product that is crafty and it is unique, can't sell like electronics on there. Um, but it's a good place for, you get a few profitable sales a day, and that really makes a difference in your total uh, advertising cost and your profitability of each day. $200 on Etsy goes a long way when you're spending $200 on advertising for Shopify and whatnot. So first year was just Amazon, a little bit of Etsy. And then I started to realize I couldn't make a business uh, work too well on Amazon because I just wasn't coming away with profits. They have this weird payment structure where it's like um, you only get the payment 2 weeks or like 2 weeks or so after it's delivered. And it's this really complex payment thing. It doesn't really make it good for cash flow. Cash flow in this business is everything. But so after at holiday season that year with Etsy, I had my first $100,000 month, and that was pretty big for me. And it really, uh, if it wasn't for that, you know, I would have had to probably start from scratch or something like that. And there's an interesting story in between that we could get into later if you want with my
what's the story?
inventory.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so all the videos I was consuming content like crazy during and throughout this entire process because I had to learn everything and I wanted to make this as good as possible. Um, and many of the videos talked about holiday season. They said like if your product is even remotely giftable, expect an increase of sales of 4 to 5 times what you normally
Wow.
do. So you have to get the inventory, and you have to buy holiday inventory on a normal holiday, a non-holiday budget. So it's not like I'm making a ton of extra money to buy all this inventory. So I went all out and I just said I'm buying as much inventory as humanly possible. Maxed out my credit cards, which you know if there's any other way I can tell you how obsessed and how driven I was, it's maxing out business credit cards in hopes of selling holiday inventory. I wouldn't advise that for everybody, but I did it and I would do it again. Um, I bought as much inventory as possible. And during that time, I wanted to expand my product line a little bit as well, which I probably wouldn't do if you were a beginner to expand the product line too soon. Uh, but I bought whiskey glasses. And when I sent the supplier my labels for the whiskey glasses, I accidentally sent them the labels for cocktail smokers. So
Oh man.
when they were yeah, so when they were sending all of the inventory over to all of the Amazon fulfillment centers, I'm eagerly waiting my inventory levels to clock in and check in because I want to be ready for holiday season. You want to check in your inventory like a good amount of time before then because they're very busy, and got to get there before a deadline of uh, October or something if you really want to do it well. And I'm looking at it, and it's taking a lot longer than usual. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like my inventory is not updating. The whiskey glasses aren't checking in, and for some reason my cocktail smoker inventory is going up. And I'm trying to think nothing of it, but then all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, like 50 units just checked in. I don't know where this is coming from. Like, what is going on here? Um, and then I called Amazon Seller Services, and I'm like, I'm just trying to figure out what's going. Reliving this is giving me anxiety. And they told me that I mislabeled the whiskey glass sets. Okay, and Amazon is not this. Uh, a la carte service where you can just say, "Hey, relabel those. We're good. We'll be fine." No, you have to take all your inventory back,
Oh,
relabel it
whoa.
yourself, and it's called a removal order. And removal orders, there's no time frame of when you're going to get your stuff. And mind you, it's like November 1st. Like we're getting close to. No, it was even later than that. It was like November 23rd because it was my wife's birthday. I remember I got the news. We were supposed to go to my in-laws' house to celebrate my wife's birthday, and like a removal order could take 90 days. You never know, and that would take me past holiday season. So all of this holiday inventory that I just maxed out all these credit cards will not be able to be sold in the time that I bought it for. So I go back to struggle season, the off season, when I get my stuff back. So that just like that, the blood drained out of my face. I just like almost fell to the floor, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do here. I've never shipped anything out myself. I had no idea what to do. So I sat and I like struggled with this for a few days. I'm like, I can't create a removal order because I don't know when I'll ever be able to get this. I paid for some consulting to the service called My Amazon Guy. That like, what do I do? Um, and the solution I came up with was, okay, there's these things called multi-channel fulfillment. It's if you get a sale from Shopify, you can have Amazon send it to that Shopify customer. It's called a multi-channel fulfillment. And they give you a date. They say this will arrive in 3 days. And I go, okay, I have to pay to get my inventory back, but I'll get my inventory back and I'll be able to sell my products. So that was my solution. I paid for 100 cocktail smokers at a time to be shipped to directly back to my house. And I would pay, like $400 per shipment to get that 100 back, to sell it back for 70 to 80 bucks. And I just kept doing that. I had to recall, I believe it was like 2,000 units to my house, 100 at a time, just to like get them
Wow.
coming. So next thing I know, oh my God. This was a nightmare for my wife as well. Cause like, it was just chaos, but just stacks of just cartons of products being dropped off by Amazon every day. And I'm just thinking about the delivery carriers. Like, what is this guy doing? What is he ordering? Like, there's all of these boxes. Literally, it would stack up to the ceiling of my porch, and I would have to take them down my stairs. And then all of these orders were coming in. The good news is people loved my product, and they were buying it like crazy. I was selling like 100 a day. And I just every night I would just print the labels out. I learned how to print labels out and package them up. And every morning I would bring them to the garage, and the mailman would come. He would back his little USPS truck up, and we would fill that thing to the brim. And
Wow.
I was every
That's
day.
nuts.
And I told my wife it was kind of like it was a. I like to see the silver line in everything, and it was like we wouldn't be able to fathom this if we didn't see it for ourselves physically. Like, look at what we built. Like, look at how many people want our stuff. I can't believe this. Like, we're filling up mail trucks. They have to come 2 times a day because they can't fill it up. They don't have enough space. So that was the silver lining. But that was the story of my first $100,000 month.
Wow.
That was a tough time, but also a milestone and something I would never forget. And I get to come on a podcast like this and tell that story. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Do
so
you
that's
did one product alone help the business get to 1 million in revenue, or was it, two, three? Yeah.
yeah. So the cocktail smoker was definitely our hero product. It had the majority of sales. Then we expanded to the whiskey infusion kit, which kind of like complemented it and added to the sales. Um, and and then February of the next year, my stepbrother was also in this business. He was doing an e-commerce business as well. Excuse me. And he wasn't having as much success. So he wanted to do something with me. So then we created another brand called Royal Clips. We worked on it from February and finally released it in July, like July 1st or so. And that really helped us get to 1 million in revenue. It was kind of it was a pretty quick success. It was better than anything else I've ever done. Um, but in the span of 6 months, we scaled to 216,000 or so in revenue, and now we're doing nearly six figures a month just on off holiday season. Um, but yeah, just continuing with the cocktail smokers, and then I created wallets, minimalist wallets, um, and a few other things, and we really scaled up from there. But I would say in about 18 months, I crossed $1 million in sales. Um,
Very nice.
so yeah, not profit, but $1 million in revenues. That's the milestone. So
What makes a good, e-commerce entrepreneur versus one that isn't?
um, drive. Um, I like to say this is the metaphor I lean to. Um, you got to really want it. I think that applies to any business that has any sort of real risk involved and high stakes. You got to really want it. I wanted it more than anything. I sacrificed any form of uh, you know social life or anything like that to do this. I was obsessed. The metaphor I use is you don't try to cross the desert on a full stomach. You got to be hungry. You really do. And I felt desperate. I felt like I was backed into a corner. I believe that is necessary. And I wouldn't advise anyone to get into entrepreneurship unless they do that. And you have to fail. You have to be okay with failure. That is what's necessary. Yeah, if you've never failed and you don't want it bad enough, you're not going to be able to make it through the ups and downs. It'll tear you up. And I don't believe you got to be willing to take risks. It's risky crossing a desert.
Yeah.
So it's got to be worth the risk to you. Um, yeah, there's a lot of people that um, feel like they need motivation or they need to be convinced or they want people to quote unquote like hold their hand. If that's you, I wouldn't suggest doing this yet. I would earn your stripes somewhere else, which could be a job. Um, but maybe it will require hating your job enough to go into something like this, because that's what it takes. Uh, it takes an obsession, and it takes a hunger that is absolutely necessary, and it's to me it's undebatable. Unless you have some sort of uh, you know angel investor who is just going to give you as much. I mean, that who would I don't know if an angel investor would ever invest in somebody who hasn't who doesn't show that drive, but you know that would be what the difference is for
Yeah.
sure.
So, like, what challenges do you face now in trying to scale the company? Is it just more products, or is it something else?
Right now, it's kind of just staying in inventory. I have had failed brands. So I started a company called Noble King Shaving Company, and as well as a company called Nova Wand. Um, and I'm sorry, what was the question again?
What challenges do you face now in trying to
Yeah.
scale the company?
Um, it's basically the challenge is try to stay as profitable as you can through ads, and you can kind of tell if a product is going to work pretty early on. It shouldn't be, um, spending $200 in ads and not getting a single sale. Um, the challenge for us right now is staying in inventory. Our products are working very well, and uh, we just keep running out of stock. So it's you don't always have the capital when you need it. So sometimes you have to dip into a capital loan or something like that. But that's a good problem. I wouldn't see that as much as of a challenge, but um, the biggest challenge in general to get something like this off of the ground is finding the cheapest way to get sales. And I don't mean cheap as in like don't spend money on ads or whatnot. It's more about creating the right ad. Um, if sometimes your product may be great, but your ad is just not really conveying the message well. You show something and people don't even know what it is. You got to understand when people are scrolling all day, they spend hours on their phone and they got so much fun stuff to look at. If you want to grab their attention, you have to grab it right away and they have to know what it is within a second. So there's techniques and stuff to the ad part, which that's a very important part in this business is you have to learn how to capture people's attention, convey your message as fast as possible, and get people to convert on your website as fast as possible. Um, yeah, so that would be the biggest challenge for other people starting off e-commerce. But the thing is you could have a great ad and just a product is just not appealing enough. I've experienced that. So that was due to um, not properly doing my product research like I was taught to in the beginning. Just kind of assuming that if I create some sort of quality product that people will buy it. That's not true. You want to research the market. You want to know that there's a lot of money flowing in that product. You don't want to get into something where it's like, oh, I could make up to $10,000. That's not enough. There's not enough stuff going in there. You want to enter businesses where there's just millions of dollars flowing every month, potentially. A lot of winners in that space. So that's another challenge I've faced is the wrong product, right ads. You want to have the right ads and the right product at the right
Yeah.
price.
When you say like you run ads, do you mean like you're running ads on Amazon to your Amazon product, or are you running like off Amazon ads into your website? Like,
So we run every sort of ad you can run. Just recently, we hired an agency to run our Amazon ads because it is pretty complex, and I've tried it for a long time to the point like where we weren't really focusing on Amazon ads. We were just doing Facebook and Instagram and TikTok ads. But yeah, so I run ads on Facebook, Instagram, um, and Google. Google works pretty well because it's high intent customers. They're searching for that keyword. Same concept for Amazon, but there's a lot of cheap competition, so people aren't always going to Amazon for quality. That's another point I make for when you're picking your product. You want to be able to add value to that product through your design and branding. Um, so, like a leather product, a leather product has a wide range of value to it. You can buy cheap leather, or you can buy the quality leather that has the better craftsmanship and better branding. Um, uh, yeah, so yeah, challenges are always getting the most profitable ads, but at a certain point, you do reach a correlation between all the platforms. So like you see like, okay, it seems like our average is X. We spent X amount of dollars to get a sale, And once you see
Yep.
that across all platforms, it's kind of like, okay, that's kind of like the number we target through everything. And once you find that number and it's a profitable number, then of course, challenges keep happening, but that's when you can start to scale and, and go up from there.
Cool. Anything else you want to add before we finish the interview?
Um, yeah, like I was saying before, I just saw this on one of my favorite podcasts, My First Million. You can do anything, not everything. So if you want to get into this business, try to avoid shiny object syndrome. Focus on making a quality product first, and yeah, go for it. Try your best. Learn as much as possible. That would be the main key. Learn, 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 learn.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks, Sydney. And yeah, I've really enjoyed just listening to your story. And yeah, I wish you the best of success in the future.
All right, Jack. Thank you for having me.
All right.